Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé. Before the 90 days, let's watch. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. As I always say, all of my content might have triggering material, so watch with care. Let's watch.
So, should we talk about the fact that you walked in on us having sex?
Yes.
Sorry.
It was just a little bit weird to turn and see you there in our room.
Okay, so maybe we'll get some details, hopefully. Did Elijah know that they were having sex? Did he know that they might be having sex? Was there a valid excuse as to why he would have gone in there? Did he leer? Because it sounds from Caleb. Because it'd be one thing to walk in and be like, oh, and close the door. Another thing, what Caleb is describing is having sex, looking up, and Elijah's just standing there, which would be a massive violation, right? It's akin to sexual assault. So, but I don't know, Elijah seems like a nice enough person. Hopefully it was a total mistake, understandable, no reason for it. No nefarious reason for it. Hopefully we'll hear an explanation like that.
Alina gave me the keys from their room. So I opened the door. I see half-naked Caleb. And then he said, "Why are you staring?" And I just said to him, "No, I'm just checking your body."
Yikes. Not okay. Again, it's not exactly the same thing, but if we reverse the genders and we have someone walking in on a woman and instead of immediately turning around saying, well, I'm just checking you out. I mean, that's a violation. That's sexual assault. If we took it to an extreme, it would be obvious to us if some customer walked into a department store, a clothing store, and just, quote unquote, accidentally walked in on a dressing room. And instead of immediately turning around, you stopped and stared at the person. That's a sexual violation. And I hope that's illegal. Is that against the law? I would hope so.
And then I'm just leaving.
Why did you come?
Because I forgot my brush.
Why do you need a brush that late at night?
Just wanted to go out. Is it important?
At least you looked good for it, I guess.
Yes.
So Caleb seems upset. He seems angry about it. And if you're Elijah, you should absolutely apologize. That's a massive violation. Even if you're just thinking, well, I'm sure he's fine. I mean, the discourteousness of it. So there's something weird going on here. I mean, there's been signs, and I know comments below about Elijah and Alina. And by the way, if you didn't catch my comments reaction video, you can, hear more of my discussion there. But I was told, people emailed me different alleged historical posts from Alina about using the N-word, and also about half Asians like myself. There was a alleged comment from her. It's unclear exactly what she meant by it, but it certainly didn't look good, that she had a crush on Hugh Grant. And in her explanation of this post that she posted about Hugh Grant, she said that she was sad and upset about the fact that Hugh Grant had a wife of Asian descent, and therefore their kids would be half Asian. And it's unclear exactly what she means by that, but it sounded like something I've heard throughout my life, that to be half Asian, to be half anything, particularly typically white mixed with something else, particularly from white people. But anyway, I get it from my Japanese side too. I mean, not my Japanese side, but in Japan. Discrimination, and calling me an abomination, calling me a freak of nature, and people like me of, various different mixtures around the world. By the way, I consider myself to be, among a whole bunch of others, at the chevron of change in our global society. Eventually, everyone's going to look like us, because when you mix different races together, you're just going to get a lot of people who are mixtures. And so I kind of consider me and other people like me, other HAPA people like me, to be early adopters of the future of our planet if we survive. So, I'm not saying we're better or superior. Not necessarily. Anyway, just joking. Anyway, the point is that, there are some genetic benefits to mixing races, which some geneticists have pointed out. But anyway, and it seemed like Alina was saying that, and we could comment about her use of the N-word, and then I think she came out, Elijah as well, saying, well, we didn't know, we're from another country, we don't understand. They seem like they understand. And then other people were emailing me saying, I'm from Russia and I know that you're not supposed to use the N-word, and I understand, and I've seen people using the N-word, and when they're using it, they absolutely know what they're doing, but no one's going to speak back to them at all, because in that cultural pocket, in wherever the particular parts of Russia they're from, or subcultures they're in, whether it's prevalent in the whole culture, I don't know, but at least their sub pocket, it's normalized. It's okay to be racist. It's okay to say those kinds of things. There's a whole slew of things that they're saying that are racist. And some people are saying, well, Elijah looks like he could be one of my cousins. I think I maybe even mentioned that he looks like he could be half Asian. But some people are also saying there's, a group of people in Russia who do not consider themselves to be part Asian, but might look part Asian to our eyes. I don't know. I have no idea about Elijah's identification or history or anything or attitudes. But I will say is that the post did hurt, and that's my first reaction. The second reaction I have is, well, what do I expect? The world is a racist, horrible place, and that's just how it is. I'm guessing there are pockets of the planet where there's less racism, but wherever I go, wherever I've been, racism has been there, endemic to that population. I don't know all the nuances around the world, but I would see racism everywhere. So there's that. It was like sadness and pain, and once again, seemingly being called an abomination. And then my second reaction is, well, why am I surprised? This stuff happens. It's been happening and will happen till the day I die. I'm quite positive of it. And then the next thought I had was, should Alina be canceled? Should people not watch this show, or not watch her segments, or not watch my reaction? Should I not react to her anymore? And for me personally, the answer is clearly that I am going to continue reacting. I think, as with Jeffrey and Varya, there were allegations that came out against Jeffrey about intimate partner violence, really quite extreme. And the question was, should I continue to react to his videos? And what I decided to do was to continue, but to talk about intimate partner violence, talk about signs of it. I didn't know if the allegations were true about Jeffrey, but it gives an opportunity for us to talk about it. The other thing that I'll say is that if we're going to move forward and change society, and as we have in the past, we've done a lot of changes. We've come a long way in my mainstream American culture. We have to have conversations, and we have to allow for people to learn, because all of us have been born into a racist society and have internalized those viewpoints. And if we're going to change and we're going to reduce racism and deprogram and de-educate everyone along those lines, we have to allow for people to because they're going to make those mistakes because they emerge from racism. We have to allow for them to learn and to change and to say, I made a mistake and I'm going to change that. And if they do that, I don't know what our reaction is to that, but we have to have that, because the current discourse in our culture often is there are the non-racists and then the racists. All of us have ableist, classist, racist, xenophobic, ageist. We have all of those things inside of us. And whether it's readily apparent to us or we've wrestled with it, it's all inside of us, and we've internalized it. It's not our fault. We weren't born this way, but it's all inside of us. And we're all working on it. I'm working on it. I have been. In fact, a very well-known attitude or phenomenon among therapists in my neck of the woods at Antioch University in Seattle. We really challenge ourselves to, one, progress ourselves and to help others progress along these lines, but also for us as professors to recognize that we have not reached the promised land. We're not done, and we'll never be done. We're always striving. We're always challenging. We're always getting feedback. We're always being open and humble to the possibility that we haven't fully progressed yet. So with Alina, is she willing to make that progression? Is she willing to listen to the feedback? Is she willing to really look at herself? Is she willing to be an advocate? Is she willing to grow? I don't know. But if she were, in my opinion, and of course you do not have to agree with this, you can have your reaction, but I'm just telling you this whole thing is on YouTube, is my reaction. If she were to do that sufficiently, my reaction would be, okay, well, I'm glad, and hopefully you can now start to advocate for others and be a force for good instead of doing what you did in the past, which was really hurtful to a lot of people, including me.
And you also look good.
And Alina's going along with it. So Elijah's saying, yeah, let's rewind it because I talked for so long, but what Elijah is saying is, yeah, I walked in on you, and yeah, I stopped and stared, and you looked good. I mean, yikes, but I don't know if I understand. Let's rewind.
Why did you come?
Because I forgot my brush.
Why do you need a brush that late at night?
Just wanted to go out. Is it
Well,
important?
at least you looked good for it, I guess.
Yes. And you also look good.
Yeah, I mean, this is just getting worse and worse. So what could Elijah be operating from? Either a place of extreme hostility towards Caleb, and he just doesn't have any empathy towards him, or Alina and Caleb, or Alina and Elijah, they're triangulating right now and frequently will do this sort of thing to people. Or Elijah is operating from a sexist standpoint that men and their bodies are not violatable, that you don't need to respect men. Is Elijah coming from a place of having been objectified and harmed himself, and so he's blind to some extent to the violation nature of it, that he's violating behaviors have been normalized for him? I don't know. Either way, hopefully the two of them, Alina and Elijah, can redeem themselves, but it's not looking good.
I've got mixed feelings about Elijah leaving tomorrow. I feel constantly like he is trying to step on my toes. He's a bit of a diva.
Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you.
But then again, he did a lot to help Alina with the wheelchair and everything, and now the pressure falls to me. And I feel like I might realize he did a lot of things that I took for granted.
All right, so Caleb is seemingly trying to be flexible and saying, well, Elijah's a good friend and a really good helper to Alina. And I'm now starting to realize how much he probably has been doing for Alina. Does Elijah feel hostile towards Caleb because he feels that Caleb is becoming in between him and Alina? I don't know. But you'd think someone would say something like, yeah, I shouldn't have done that, and I shouldn't have stared, or something. You just hope there'd be some. But Elijah's... So if the edit was an accurate depiction of what really happened, then if you're Caleb, you're like, well, so my body is just free game, that Elijah will walk in at any time in the future because he seems to think it's totally fine, and I'm not safe. Like, that would be a hard pill to swallow.
Cheers.
Maybe we should
What?
play some game. Maybe never have I ever.
Oh,
Maybe
we can
something.
play never.
Okay, never play this game unless you're with people you can trust, because there are certain things that are going to come up that are possibly going to be really hard to hear. If just imagine you're with, now some people are totally fine, radical honesty, they're not jealous people or whatever. But most people, if you're playing, particularly with your partner and a friend of your partner, and they're malicious, which Elijah clearly seems to have an attitude of maliciousness. Syntax, Kirk. Then there's going to be questions that are going to be brought up, and you're going to have to realize, essentially, it's not a game, it's a disclosure party. You're disclosing things about your history that you wouldn't normally disclose. You know, if you said, never have I ever gone to the grocery store, or never have I ever kissed someone or so, you know, but typically it's, you know, never have I ever had a threesome, or never have I ever, I don't know, done, it's usually something fun, okay? And if you're with your partner, you're basically just agreeing to an activity that says, okay, I'm just going to disclose to you what my friend thinks is the most bothersome details about my life to you. We saw this in Love in Paradise with, I can't remember their names, but I just, if I were Alina, I would say, no, we're not playing that game. Because I know where this is headed. It's going to lead to me disclosing things to Caleb that I'm not ready to disclose to him right now.
Have I ever, I guess.
This is like college party stuff.
Elijah, you start.
Never have I ever had sex with more than 100 women. So who had never should drink, or who had?
Who has to drink.
Or, I suppose, it's a reverse thing where Elijah is trying to call Caleb out on certain behaviors, but if you're Caleb, you're in full control over what you disclose, because you could just be like, well, I should be drinking right now, but I'm not going to, because I'm not ready to disclose this right now.
Oh, wow.
All right, so Caleb agreed to disclose, and you could argue that he's willingly disclosing because he could easily just not drink. And it's not really lying, right? Because you're just not participating in the game. But so he is admitting to having had sex with more than 100 women. Some people might think like, whoa, wow, how old is he? How many women is that in a short amount of time? But you know, there are various different activities, and it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't indicate anything about your personality. Some people have no partners by the time they're his age. Some people have hundreds of partners by the time they're that age. It just indicates choices in life and preferences.
Oh, what? Does that bother you?
I can't say it doesn't. I did not expect it to be that much. I knew there was many, but more than 100, that's a lot. It just makes me worry that he's just a player and he is not prepared for anything serious.
Right. I think that's the typical reaction. And I suppose there might be some wisdom behind that, okay, you've had sex with over 100 people, and you and I had sex, and so this is just normal life to you, and I'm just going to be another statistic in your, in the wake of your lifestyle. And I think that it's fine to have that question mark, but the association there is particularly for women if they've done this sort of thing. But it's not necessarily true, right? That you can certainly have had a lot of partners, because if you think about the alternatives or another narrative, let's say Caleb had one partner or three partners up until Alina, but they had sex like 3 times a day ever since he was 18 years old or something. So what does that mean? Well, does that mean that, I don't know, it doesn't say much to me. If I heard that, I don't know if we could predict, because that's always what you're trying to do. Is like, okay, that was your past. How does that predict your future behavior? I don't know if it necessarily predicts anything. But I don't know the research on it. I'd have to look it up.
So you drink.
I've never.
Yeah, but we aren't drinking, so you have to. That's the American rules. I don't know what they do in Russia, but...
Okay, your turn then.
Ooh, never have I ever lived in Russia.
This is not fair, I think.
So Caleb's like, look, can we just bring this down a notch and just have some nicer questions that aren't so forcefully disclosing? Again, you don't have to participate in the game, and you don't even have to tell the truth. You know, if I just walked up to someone and said, I'm going to play a game where I demand the truth out of you over any question that I have, I think most people say, no, that's not fair. Just because it's called Never Have Ever, it's a game, doesn't mean you have to go along with it.
Never have I ever keeping a big secret from my partner, which I know for 13 years already.
Wow. Now, I think what he's referring to is Alina is scared about revealing to Caleb that while, if I understand the facts right, she and Caleb were communicating romantically, she was still living with her ex-partner, and she hasn't told him yet. So she's worried that he'll be hurt, that Caleb will be hurt by that and upset about that. I think Alina will say, look, I was living with my former partner, but we were not romantically involved. It was just because we were friends or just because it was convenient or whatever. And I'm guessing Caleb would be fine. He doesn't seem to be someone he doesn't seem like a Jasmine, for example. So I think Alina's safe in telling him that. At the very least, I think, given Caleb's track record, we just can't imagine Caleb going, flipping the table all over and saying, like, how dare you? I'm never going to talk to you again. It just doesn't seem likely. But Elijah knows that Alina is really insecure and scared about disclosing this, and Elijah just, without asking her permission, basically just says something that and makes her reveal something, and I think Alina isn't happy about that, which would make sense.
That's interesting.
Isn't it? Here I am for you, the brave bitch.
What?
Spill it out, bitch, already.
Wow. I mean, the turn that Elijah seems to have taken over since the beginning. Elijah seemed like this really nice person, very helpful, very caring, protective over Alina, fun. And now he attacks Caleb, and he already had in the past, it could be argued. And now he's turning on Alina and calling her names, making her say things. And Elijah doesn't seem to be playful. He seems to be genuinely having kind of a meltdown emotionally, hostile and kind of giving up. So it's interesting to see. I wonder what the context there in their relationship.
So Alina has some secret from Caleb that she can reveal for a long time. Now I'm leaving, and she will not have someone by her side to push her to that decision. Yes, I'm that bitch, and I did it.
I hear people say this sort of thing. I don't think that's okay. You can't just say, well, that's me, I'm a jerk face, and that's just how I live because that's me. And you wonder, how did you get there? There must have been some logical path as to how you got this self-identified B word and permission to be hurtful. Now, he could argue, look, I'm a truthsayer, and that's just the way it's going to be. I don't like secrets. Okay. But do you have to go about it that way and alienate everyone in the room?
I feel kind of angry at Elijah for bringing this up. It doesn't feel right for him to just make me feel uncomfortable like this. I know I'll have to come clean with Caleb about living with my ex. But I don't want to tell Caleb about it in a bar. I just want us to be alone.
Okay, so we're hearing from Alina that she's upset that Elijah did that. I was wondering if Alina was like, well, it was a good thing, or I actually kind of wanted him to push me. But I think Alina's having a totally reasonable reaction of, like, why would you do that? It's such a hostile thing. I mean, just imagine doing that to your friend. Just outing you for why? Now, you could argue Elijah doesn't want the two of them together, I guess. I don't know. But the more and more we see, Elijah seems to have like a bone to pick in general, I guess. Maybe he has incurred a lot of relational traumas, and the way he copes with it is to attack other people randomly.
What stage of the relationship are you now? And what do you feel?
We have more time together, more time to get to know each other. I think that's important to appreciate and use. We don't want to determine what it means now prematurely.
I kind of wanna. I'm kind of tired of hearing how you are being all indecisive and stuff.
Okay, so they're having conversation in front of Elijah, prompted by Elijah, about what all this means, essentially, what the future holds, what the intentions are. I think from Alina's vibe, she wants to consider this to be a forever, possibly forever thing. And Caleb doesn't really want to talk about that, or probably isn't ready to talk about that, which we would all understand really from either side. Alina is fine with saying, look, I've known for a long time he's the one, and having him here, I now really know he's the one. Or I want to go down that road and see what life has to offer with that option. And we'd all understand for Caleb to be like, well, it's been great, and I'm going to go home and I'll give it some thought. And it's, I have a pretty high threshold when it comes to making promises like that. And there's a possibility, given the amount of partners he's had, that there have been either conversations that have led to him in situations where he has hurt some people's feelings. I don't know that, and has learned to just be very clear and to not make any kind of promises or intimate any promises that you're not willing to keep. So maybe that's why he's being a little firm about that. But I hope that they can have a conversation, not with Elijah there, but I hope they can have this conversation where they can say, this is what I would like to have happen. I'm guessing what Caleb would say, if he were to be honest, he would say, look, I like you. I've had a great time. I want to continue being with you, but I'm not quite sure what this means long term. It could mean something significant and exclusive and all those kinds of things, but I don't know yet. And so I'd like to just still give it some time. We understand this, right? You go on a second date and someone's like, what does this mean? Does this mean we're getting married? And you're like, whoa, like I'm just experiencing you. Can't we just take our time? But it's also okay for Alina to want more, but hopefully they can communicate it in a way that's respectful of the other person and assertive. Alina, historically, and she seems to be kind of having a vibe that she's angry that he's not moving fast. But I don't know. Let's give her the benefit of the doubt and see how this goes.
There's no indecision, especially with whatever you apparently have been hiding for 13 years. Maybe we should talk about whatever that is before you start trying to press for some type of answer or whatever
exactly.
this is.
That's what I didn't want. I didn't want to press you, but at the same time, I'm just tired of hearing how you're always like, yeah, we should get to know each other more. How more do you want to get to know me?
More. That's what he's... How more does he want to get to know you? He wants to get to know you more than he knows you now. You've spent, I think, a week together. Essentially, you've dated for a week. Now, of course, you've had all those conversations online for 13 years, which helps to know someone, but he wants to know more. You're ready to say, I want to take this to the next level of commitment. I think that's what I wish they would be more explicit around that instead of like this amorphous conversation. I wish you would say, well, Caleb, this is differentiation. It's recognizing your needs, owning it, and communicating it in a fair, non-accusatory way. She's being accusatory. She's like, there's something wrong with you. Instead of saying, well, I'm just really in love with you, and it kind of scares me that you're not where I'm at. But you don't have to be where I'm at, but I would love it if you were. And if there's a path to get you to where I'm at, then let's do that. But I just have to tell you, that's what's going on with me. That'd be okay. But the accusation, what's he supposed to say in this moment? Oh, okay. So because you're emotionally pressuring me, that I'm willing to take it to the next level because my needs don't matter?
I lived with my ex for a few months.
Was he your ex at the time?
No, not yet. I don't know. I just didn't want to tell you too much about another guy, but telling that I live with him, I don't know. I was just I didn't know how you would react at all.
Wait, so it wasn't a former partner when they were meaning he was her boyfriend and they were living together? Because up until this point, the impression I had was that she had broken up with her ex, but she still lived with him. And then she started to flirt and talk with Caleb. But now she's saying, I think, no, she was cheating on her boyfriend with Caleb online. That's what she's saying. And she's saying, "Oh, I didn't know if I should say anything." What? Like, there was a debate there?
Just scary, you know? Because I really value what we have. And I was afraid that, like, you're gonna be like, oh, whatever, then. I don't know, I don't want to mess with that. But I just really want to say that I'm sorry that I hid things from you.
So I'll give Alina the benefit of the doubt. Perhaps she was on the way out with that person. Maybe she wasn't actually flirting with Caleb. They were just friends. I don't know. Maybe we'll hear some clarification there.
I can understand the apprehension that you weren't sure of how it would take it and you didn't want to mess things up. But I think this just reinforces how we should take time to get to know each other, because this didn't come out until we were here in person.
I see it, but I
will say it's kind of weird for that point to be shoehorned in that Caleb is making. It's like, yeah, that's just another reason why we should take things. How about, Caleb, you just say, I don't know, I just want to go slow, you know? Because for her, she's going to latch on to that and debate it. Whereas if Caleb just says, look, I'm just not ready. I like you, but I don't like you like that yet. Maybe I will, but not now. Just because when you bring up reasons, there's a debate. Let's see what happens.
still know you 13 years.
Not in person, though. It took Elijah to make this come out. So in theory, I don't know what other things you might be hiding. 13 years of knowing you didn't push you to be honest. So that history doesn't have the significance you're making it sound like it has.
Wow, that's a really good point, actually. I hadn't even thought about that. So she's saying, well, he's saying, I want to take time because, and she's like, well, we've known each other for 13 years. He's like, well, not in person. And she's like, but we've known each other for so long. And he's like, well, if we knew each other for 13 years, how come that didn't compel you to be honest with me? So I can't necessarily know that I can trust you. I think he's just kind of, if I was to take a guess and he were to be honest, I think he would say, I don't really care about her living with the guy. We weren't involved. I didn't consider her to be my girlfriend at the time. I was flirting, but I didn't know if anything would come of it. So, it doesn't really bother me. I wouldn't be surprised if Caleb at the time was also involved with people. Who knows? But I'm not accusing him of anything. It just sounds like before coming out here, or, before they both, I think they're both in Turkey, before this trip, I think for him, he was thinking, well, maybe things will work out, maybe they won't, but I'll cross that bridge when I get there. I think more likely, he wants to continue the relationship, but doesn't want her to burn out because she interprets his wanting to go slow as an indication that it'll never progress. Now, I think he should just say that instead of shoehorning in this idea and attaching his reason for being slow to that. Although, it is an actual logical reason. He has a logic there of, well, I just found out you've been lying to me. And the only reason why I found out is because Elijah outed you against your will. So what else is going to come forward? And I just don't know if I can trust you. So I just want to take some time.
I don't want to make any commitment to you at this point when we have a whole nother week or so together.
But I think we really need to have such conversation before we leave.
Yeah, and I've agreed to that already.
Okay.
And I think I've explained all my reasons for waiting. And again, this solidifies my reasoning.
So it sounds like they've talked about it before off camera, which would make sense. It'd be good for them to do. He has reasons. I don't think you need reasons to want to not commit to marriage after a couple weeks of in-person dating. I think you're completely free to just be like, look, I don't know about you, but I want to know someone I want to date someone for a few years before I even talk about marriage. That's just me. You're different. That's fine. But I'm not going to even entertain a conversation about marriage until we're a number of years in. I'll tell you that if things work out, there's a possibility of that happening, you know, because you don't want to leave people on a lurch for that long in terms of what's possible. But, you know, you're free to just say that.
It's one thing that she stayed with this guy while she was seeing me, but it's another thing that she kept me in the dark. And not only that, but she waited until we came here to Turkey to tell me. I want a relationship that's built on trust, where I can actually trust my partner when she's halfway across the world.
All right. I want to thank everyone who's participated in the conversation below. I do reactions to your reactions to my reactions every week, where I read your comments, and I appreciate the kind comments. It really helps me to feel validated, honestly, when people are being nice. Also, it's just interesting to hear your opinion. I'm always curious as to what your take is, what your cultural, sometimes you're from some of these countries, and so you know the behind the scenes or the cultural premises upon which people are operating from, and that is helpful to add to the conversation, helps me as a clinician and as a commentator. So yeah, and as I always say, be nice to each other, give each other the benefit of the doubt, and, you know, be nice. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.